Luke, thanks for that kind introduction. And Megan, thanks for your leadership here at the World Affairs Council. It's great to be with you this morning as we kick off this very important global security forum. It is my hope that we'll have frank and open discussions as we delve into the issues that are impacting our nation here at home and U.S. interests globally. Over the past 22 years, as a nation, we reluctantly primarily focus on threats to the homeland by violent groups such as Al-Qaeda and ISIS. Although these threats to our nation continue to exist, as these groups continue their aspirations to carry out attacks on U.S. soil and to our interests abroad, thanks to our great military, intelligence community, law enforcement officials, and others who have remained vigilant, our nation has gone free from large-scale terrorist attack. And although our work is not over, we find ourselves in a better place than we were on September 11, 2001. Fast forward 22 years to today, and our nation finds itself facing a vastly different set of domestic and geopolitical challenges, threats, and opportunities. Secretary of State Blinken spoke recently at the Council of Foreign Relations, and he stated that the United States is at an inflection point in the world, where there are such profound changes taking place that in many ways the decisions that we make now are likely to shape what comes next, not just for the next few years, but arguably for the next few decades. In line with our theme for this year's Global Security Forums, Tipping Points and Tripwires, our purpose for the day is to delve deeper into Secretary Blinken's comments and examine the tipping points, tripwires, and opportunities that our nation face or will face here at home and abroad today and in the future. To help us better understand these tipping points and tripwires, Megan has assembled an impressive group of speakers throughout the day. They consist of our nation's most respected senior military leaders, security experts, and global scholars. We should all look forward to what they have to say today. More importantly, I encourage those of you in the audience that are not guest speakers to play an active role during the question and answer period and panel discussions to constructively and professionally challenge our guest speakers with your questions and provide your thoughts and ideas to the conversation. To help kick things off, Megan asked me to briefly discuss what I thought were the biggest tipping points and tripwires that we as a nation should focus on. So I will briefly discuss 7 that I view worthy of discussion for today. You will hear more on my 7 tripwires in greater details throughout the day. So I promise you, guest speakers, I won't steal your thunder. I just want to make sure that we get energized as we start today. The first is China. Our 2022 national security and national military strategies have labeled China as the #1 security threat facing our country. As you know, the U.S.-China relationship has been strained over the last couple of years, largely due to a myriad of issues, such as the China balloon incident over the U.S., the origin of the COVID pandemic, the militarization of the South China Sea, the unsafe and professional behavior of the Chinese military aircraft and ships against the U.S. military operating in international waters, China's aggressive stance on Taiwan, and China's piracy of U.S. technology amongst other things. As we compete with China, it is important that we find ways to resolve our issues or find common ground so that our differences do not tip the scale towards conflict. The United States and China have the two largest economies and the two largest militaries in the world. I don't think any of us can imagine the catastrophic global impact of a US-China war. At a minimum, world economies would absolutely collapse, and there would be a tremendous amount of loss of life on both sides. It is in the best interest of both countries to move forward with diplomatic and military dialogue so that we avert such a conflict. And I look forward to General Terry Roebling and others talking more about this topic. The second is Russia. For many years, our US military and political leaders viewed Russia as a significant military threat and as a near-peer adversary to the US, given its advanced weaponry, large military force, and abundant nuclear arsenal. The war in Ukraine has exposed the world that the Russian military is not 10 feet tall, like many thought. However, Russia continues to pose an existential threat to the US and will continue to be a security threat to its neighboring countries on Europe's eastern flank. Regardless of the outcome of the war in Ukraine, which will have further implications for the US and our NATO alliance. I hope to talk about this more along with General Laura Potter that's sitting over here, our Army Senior Intelligence Officer, and also Steve Sepro, General Steve Sepro, there he is back there. The third is North Korea. North Korea and Kim Jong-un are on an aggressive path in developing and advancing their short and long-range intercontinental ballistic missiles and nuclear weapons capabilities. It is reported in open source that North Korea has tested and now has the capability to strike the United States with long-range IBCM deep inside US territory. I don't know that to be fact, but I'm sure Laura can add color to it if she's willing to do so. However, many military pundits dispute this claim. As you know, North Korea's military arsenal also poses great danger to our allies, South Korea and Japan, and many others in the Pacific region. So I look forward to hearing more about North Korea. Fourth is the destruction of our US democracy and our democratic institutions. Today, we find ourselves significantly polarized as a nation. Polarized politically, racially, culturally, through perceived government failure, through perceived inequitable distribution of resources and wealth, and in our education systems around the nation, amongst other areas. Continued disenfranchisement could put our nation and our institutions extremely vulnerable to internal extremist attacks, and even worse, civil war. Our nation cannot afford another January 6th or something much worse. Fifth is Iran. Iran remains the most significant threat in the Middle East, and the Iranian government continues their aim to undermine US interests in the region, primarily through the use of proxies in order to provide deniability and to shield from accountability. We know that Iran continues to actively plan targets against the US. Iran is also on an aggressive path to acquire and develop advanced short-range and long-range missiles, They aspire to have ICBM arsenal capable of striking the U.S., and most notably, striking Israel. Iran also continues uranium enrichment with the aim of becoming a nuclear power. My sixth is climate change. Now, I'm well aware that we have naysayers on this one, and it is a contentious subject. So thank God we have panel members to talk about this today, because I can't. But it is my belief that there's much being said about climate change, but little being done about it. We know that the impact of warmer temperatures could drastically change the world's physical landscape. Water is becoming scarcer in many regions, and droughts are becoming more frequent, causing a significant food shortage around the globe. There's much to unpack on this topic, but I believe that this is an area that's going to require U.S. global leadership if we're serious about making change across the globe. And seventh, my final, disruptive technologies. Disruptive technologies are breakthroughs that significantly change our lives and the way we operate as consumers, businesses, industries, militaries, etc. Technologies that come to mind are artificial intelligence, nanotechnology, cryptocurrency, quantum computing, cyber, and additive manufacturing, amongst many others. There are countless opportunities on the horizon with the use of these game-changing technologies. However, as you know, many can be exploited by bad actors for nefarious and evil purposes. In closing, none of these tipping points or tripwires should come as a surprise to many of you. And I'm sure there's more out there that I did not mention. I hope that you'll get the opportunity to add to this list as we go through the day. I would like to leave you with a quote from General Mark Milley, our chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. General Milley wrote in his 2022 National Military Strategy Letter to the Force that the time is now and the window of strategic opportunity that we have is closing. What we do in the next few years is going to set the conditions for victory or defeat in the next war. We must adapt now in order to win the next war. From happening in the first place. General Milley's comments are exactly why we are here today and why this forum is so important. We're here to help our national leaders set the condition and find ways to adapt now so that we prevent war and we protect this great country and the peace and prosperity that each of us cherish. Again, thank you for joining us today, and I look forward to the rest of the day.